Hi, everybody. Hi, welcome. My name is Ileana, and I'm a librarian at the San Francisco Public Library, located on the unceded land of the Ramaytush Ohlone people. Wherever you're tuning in from, we're so happy that you could join us today. Welcome to another special Viva program as we celebrate Latino Hispanic Heritage Month. We have a colorful craft treat for you today, brought in partnership with the Mexican Museum. But first, a huge thanks to the Friends of the San Francisco Public Library for their generous support of this special series that's going to run through the month of September and October. Today, you're going to have the opportunity to watch and create your own colorful artwork inspired by Amate paper paintings, a type of bark paper used for a variety of purposes, beginning with Mesoamerican cultures and continuing in modern day Mexico. Our teacher for today's program is Diane Levy, the Director of Education at the Mexican Museum. The mission of the Mexican Museum is to voice the complexity and richness of Latino art and culture throughout the Americas, and to engage and facilitate dialogue among the broadest public. Learn more about the virtual exhibits and museum from home at www.mexicanmuseum.org. Diane will share the history, a little bit about her process, and be available for a Q&A session after the video. If you have any questions, please add them to the chat and we'll be sure to answer them. So gather your supplies, sit back, and enjoy learning about Amate paper paintings with the Mexican Museum.
Hola, niños. My name is Diane, and I'm the Director of Education at the Mexican Museum. Thank you for joining us today. I'm real excited to be here to share with you our Amate bark painting program. First, I'm going to explain a little bit about the history. Then, you're invited to make an Amate bark painting as I do my step-by-step demonstration of the process of this craft. And we will conclude the program with a question and answer session. So let me tell you a little bit about this relatively new folk art that started in the 1960s that linked the Mesoamerican past to the present. We all know that the ancient peoples made the first type of paper out of bark fibers or plant fibers. You know that the Egyptians made it out of the papyrus plant. You also know that the Chinese made it from rice. But did you know that the Mesoamericans made it from bark from the ficus tree? The Mexican tradition of making tree bark paper is known as amante. The Aztec called it amante from the Nahuatl word amato, meaning paper. The earliest known example of the amante paper was found in Jalisco, Mexico in 75 BCE in a tomb. The great thing about paper is that it connects all the cultures of the world. Another neat thing about the amante paper is that it's actually two stories blended into one wonderful story where it links the Mesoamerican past to the present. The first story is of the Ohlone people in the ancestral times who made the Amate bark paper for their religious and healing purposes. They believed that the paper was sacred and had supernatural powers. Therefore, the shamans took the bark from the mulberry tree, which is the lighter ones, to represent the good spirits, and the darker from the ficus tree to represent the evil spirits. The second story is of the Nahua people who painted stylized designs on their pottery. The two stories blend into one when the Nahua people started to paint their whimsical designs of pottery onto the Ohlone paper. The Amate paper is still made by hand in the same process the Mesoamericans did in ancient times. They took the bark from the trees, they boiled it, then they laid it in a crisscross fashion like the images will show you. And then they took a rock and they pounded it until it became a fine mesh. And they put it on wooden frames until it dried. Then they sold it at market. The Amate paper has a very fascinating history. Go to the library or go online and check out to see how the shamans breathed life into the cutout figures, how they made the paper in secrecy, and why a million sheets of Amate paper was ordered by Montezuma in 1507. A million pieces of paper, all done by hand. Wow, that sure is a lot. Will people ask, will the Amate bark painting survive the test of time? Only time will tell. But what's really important to know is that the Otomi and the Nawa people have gained the national and international recognition they so rightfully deserved. So now we're going to take a closer look at the Amate bark painting to see which elements that you would want. Let's take a closer look at the Amate bark paintings to see which elements you want to put into yours. You might have noticed the fanciful animals, the unusual shapes, vibrant colors, can't miss that. And maybe you've noticed, the border around the paper. I noticed that there's some scallop shapes. I noticed that there's a border. I know that there's repetition of color and shapes throughout the painting to give it a balance. Oh no, I forgot the most important thing, the bark. You can notice that the background is not filled in. A Amate bark painting always shows the natural bark in it. So I think now we should begin. So now you will watch me as I do a step-by-step demonstration of an Amate bark painting. So now let's get on to the demonstration. So these are the materials you're going to need in order to make your own Amate bark painting. First of all, you'll need a paper bag to simulate the bark painting. And if you don't have a paper bag, you can use white paper and you can color it by color or by watercolor to simulate bark. You will need something to color with. You can use oil pastels, you could use colored pencils, you can use markers, watercolors, and of course, our favorite thing of crayons. I think I'm going to be using oil pastels and probably some colored pencils. If you paint, you need to make sure you have a container, paintbrush, maybe a paper towel to blot off the paint. You'll need a Sharpie and possibly a yellow or white marker for highlighting. So let me begin with the first step. You're going to take your paper bag and you're going to cut down your paper bag and you're going to cut down the crease of the bag. So you're going to use the inside to make sure that you don't have any of the print on the outside. Now, once I have my bag, I get to decide what shape I want to make it. Or what shape are you going to make it? You can make it circular, you can make it square, you can make it diamond, or you can make it whatever you like. In fact, I think I'll just keep mine rectangular like this. This seems to be perfect. So now that I have my shape, my next thing I'm going to do is, as you can see, I've already torn off the edges, and I'm going to tear off one to show you. We want a rough edge in order to give it that bark appearance. In order to tear off the edge, take your index finger as a guide and do a rip all the way down. If you could do it in one long strip, that's a challenge. This way is easy though. You're going to have a little difficulty going across the paper because of the grain. But don't get too frustrated. It'll come in little chunks are fine. Now that I have my paper, my next step is, am I going to have a border? And if I am, or if you are, what kind is it going to be? Will it be a single border? Will it be a double border? Will it be right against the edge? or will it be inset? You can tell from my picture, that I chose, first of all, I chose the single border, yellow, but it didn't pop out. So then I decided to add to both sides to make the color stand out. So as you make your picture, sometimes it changes as you actually draw it. So the next step is, now that I've decided my border, I get to do the fun part, which is to be creative and think about my design. So the very first thing you need to think about is, are you going to have a natural design, or are you going to have a scene that tells a story? I'm choosing to do a natural design from nature because I know that the Mexicans love nature, and they have an appreciation for nature and life, and they love colors. So I've chosen, as you can see, birds, sun, and flowers. What kind of a picture are you going to make? Once you decide that, you need to remember that the simplest shapes are the best to fill them in with details. The feathery designs are really nice to look at, but they're really tricky to make. Then once you decide what you want to make, you have to decide what kind of lines you're going to use. I use a lot of long flowing lines, as you can tell, some curved lines, some swirly lines. What are you going to use? Will your lines be curly? Will they be zigzag? Will they be dotted? There's so many possibilities to choose from. Now, as you can tell, I've already sketched out part of my design, and I happen to like to sketch out the details first, so you can see that I have a path for my bird. Otherwise, I've ended up doing my tail feathers off the page. But here's a really neat trick. Sometimes you get something off the computer and you really like it, and it's very hard to trace onto a brown paper. So here's a nifty trick. You can see that I've already started to blacken my back. This is a preliminary sketch of a bird I did. And what I do is I rub really hard, put a lot of pressure on it so I can have that waxy buildup. And now I'm going to place it on my paper. And with a dull pencil or with a ballpoint pen, I'm going to trace over the outline of the bird. And you can watch me as I do it, and it will create the black line on the paper. And as I said, this is a really nice way of doing something when you want to transfer and you can't see. So hopefully, and I'm not doing all my details, I'm just doing parts of it. So as you can see, it's actually left a black line. Now I'm going to go over with the black crayon later and outline it so you can, it'll stand out. Now that I have my sketch, at this point, if you're painting, if you're using paint, you have a decision to make. This step is optional. You can either choose to keep your paper plain, or you can take your paper and crumple it into a ball, flatten it out, and you can also take a brown crayon and add to the bark. As I said, this is optional. If you're using paint, you do it now because the paint will smear. If you're using color crayons, we actually do this later because it's harder to color on crinkled paper. So now comes the fun part, coloring. It's also the hard part. Which colors are you going to use? There are so many to choose from. Now, I happen to like to use my warm colors of yellow, orange, and red next to my cool colors of blue, green, and purple. This way, my colors will pop out. I found a lot of interesting things as I've done the preliminary sketches. The very first thing I learned is you go from light to dark. And another way is I'm going to color by color and not by object, which means that I'm going to color everything yellow first, and then I will go to my orange. This is really nice, especially if you're painting, because you don't have to keep on cleaning your brush, but it also keeps your colors pure. I know I hate when my colors get mixed up, don't you? So right now I'm going to color the starting, there goes the crayon. That's what happens when you do too much pressure, when you want a waxy buildup. So I think I will use my oil pastel instead. So I'm going to color everything yellow, all my yellow parts first. I know that I have a beak that's yellow. I know that my sun here is going to be yellow. And then I'm going to put yellow here. And I know that I have some yellow on my bird, which kind of looks funny without the rest of it. And I know I have yellow down here on my tail feathers. I know I have yellow down here. So then I might go to my orange. And no, you're not going to watch me color all of this. So then I'm going to fill in all my orange here. And then I'll go to my flower over here and do that orange and anything else. So as you can tell, I have a nice vibrant colors because I put a lot of pressure on the pastel in order to give that that richness. Now I'm looking at my picture and I see a lot of blank spaces, which is great because I know I want to leave some of the background for the bark, but I think I'm going to add a few more details. So maybe what I'll do is take my blue and make some swirls over here, make some swirls over here, make another swirl here. Later on, I'm going to go and outline it in black. And I added my flowers already. And maybe I'll add some dots to my bird. So I'll add some dots down here. And that's okay. I can continue on later and add more. What will you add in your spaces? Will there be swirls? Will there be more leaves? Will there be dots? Will there be some geometric designs? Again, the possibilities are endless. So the next step I know is to make accent lines. Accent lines highlight certain parts of your picture. So either you can take a white crayon or you can take your yellow marker or your yellow pastel crayons, and you're going to make some streaks. As you can tell, I've already highlighted some of my plants here, and maybe I want to make some streaks in highlight some of my feathers. It's a quick little stroke. You don't want to keep on going over and over and over your paper because it will just make the lines get all messy. Maybe I'll highlight a little bit of my flowers and continue on highlighting different areas. Maybe I'll give my son some more lines. But again, I don't want to fill up my whole background because it's very important to see the bark painting. So now I'm looking at it, and I have one more step, which is I will be taking a black Sharpie or a black crayon, and I'm going to outline each individual shape. And I'm going to take all my details and I'm going to outline them. And this makes each shape stand out. So, wow, I think I'm kind of done for now. So the next step is I can take my painting and I can mount it on construction paper to hang it on the wall, or else I could punch holes and string it with a string. So I hope that you will enjoy making your own Amate bark painting. I know I really enjoyed being here with you today. You can share your wonderful masterpieces with us at the museum by tagging at SF Mexican Museum or by using the hashtag SF Mexican Museum. If you enjoyed doing this art project, please go online at www.mexicanmuseum.org and check out our other exciting art activities. Please make sure to check out our new museum at Third and Mission when it opens later next year. Until then, gracias and adios.
That was wonderful. That was wonderful. Just a reminder, thank you for adding your comments into the chat. We have Diane here. She's going to pop up on screen right next to me. Um, there she goes, and she's going to unmute. Wonderful. So we have Diane. Hi, Diane. And Diane, just thank you. Thank you again for sharing your knowledge and your experience about the Amate paper paintings. That was wonderful. That was such a wonderful video to share out. We have received some appreciation from the YouTube chat. A wonderful demonstration, so fun. A heart sent to you from the Mexican Museum. So we haven't gotten any questions yet, but I do have a question.
Okay.
You did speak a little bit about the types of designs, and you showed the flowers and the birds, and you spoke a little bit about how it's really inspired by nature. And I know Mexico is just so beautiful, and there's oceans and rivers and mountains. And what other kinds of designs have you seen, or would you be inspired to incorporate?
Well, besides the stylized animals that we've seen in the past images, the young artists can explore zoomorphic kinds of animals that combine animal and man, or mythological creatures. They can paint scenes like the Nahua people telling their daily life, their village life. For the young artists, they can tell things that happened on their vacation. They can talk about their daily lives, including sports, special birthdays, promotions, performances. There's endless possibilities. You can also look toward your own imagination, get ideas from there. Music, movement, colors, shapes, they all become inspirations to the young artist. You can also use the Amate bark painting politically, like the Nahuas, who used it in a campaign against construction of a dam. Today's people can look toward the current events that are happening today and incorporate the ideas of poverty, injustices, call to action, or racism, and incorporate them into their designs. Any place you look, you can be inspired for your designs for your Monte papers. You can also look toward the codices or geometric patterns. Again, the possibilities are endless, and I know that the artists will come up with some wonderful ideas.
I love that. I love that's exactly right, right? Like the possibilities are endless, and
right.
you really did frame it in a way for the artist to be inspired and to make that decision. We do have a question that came in,
okay.
and we have more appreciation. Love everything you've done. And somebody is asking and stating, I'd like to know more about the fact that this is a new folk art, a relatively new folk art. Can you say more? That was something that they did not know.
Right. Well, it started, as I said before, in the Mesoamerican times with the Otomi people. And then there was another group of people, the Nahuas in Guerrero, who used to be famous for their pottery and their stylized designs. They would go to market along with the Otomis that would bring their kinds of paper. And in one way or another, they exchanged techniques. So the Nahuas were tired of the broken pottery in their design, so they decided to use their designs on the Amate paper from the Otomis people. Therefore, in the 1960s, this became a relatively new folk art because it joined the historical process of the Amate bark painting with the new ones. So most of the folk art is steeped in history. This had the beginnings in history, but is now a brand new folk art enjoyed by a lot of people.
Yeah, fascinating. And I love how you were able to connect it to just kind of paper around the world, right? Like how we all kind of learned about paper in different ways, and what people use paper in their own daily lives, right?
It's really important that we see the connection between all the cultures of the world, because paper is important. Most cultures have used paper. And again, it's a way to connect us. And the more commonalities or similarities we have, the more understanding we have of each other cultures and respect each other in today's
Definitely.
world.
Definitely. Another question came in, so this is exciting. What part of Mexico would this folk art be found? And are certain colors more popular?
Um, well, the Nahua people are from Guerrero, and the Domi people are from the San Pablito um, area. So, but you find it all throughout Mexico in the artisan markets, especially in Mexico City. Um, the colors are vibrant. I'm not sure if they have a favorite set of colors, but the nature in Mexico is so beautiful and colorful that that's where they get their inspiration from. So any bright colors um, are beautiful for this kind of artwork, or even earth tones, depending upon what the subject matter is.
Fabulous. And just another appreciation, a wonderful demonstration. Thanks, Diane. Loved it. I do have another question. What's coming up for the Mexican Museum? What can you share?
Well, number one, we're really excited. First of all, our new museum at Third and Mission is now being, the facade is now being installed. And the facade is a sculptural piece by Jan Hendricks, who was inspired by migration patterns of all kinds. Until the new museum opens in 2021, summer 2022, we have posted activities and exhibit online. For example, our digital exhibits feature Danielle Lizambla, Fernando Reyes, Adon Perez, Paredes, Mariana de la Hoz, in addition to the exhibits that we have on Mexico and San Francisco, stories of the Chicano movement, and our brand new exhibit called Endemism, which is the contemporary art in the Oaxacan biosphere. So that's just put online. We are also going to be posting Dia de los Muertos activities and videos. We are in collaboration with the San Francisco Arboretum, and we are also in collaboration with other museums throughout the Bay Area. So please check out or go to our website at www.mexicanmuseum.org and find all the exciting activities that we have, and art activities are also there.
Wonderful. I really appreciated the library plug that you plugged in the video. We're a fan of yours, and it's so heartwarming to hear that you're a library fan as well, and to be able to check out books and view resources online. Do you have any other resources that you would share for folks that wanted to learn more about Amate?
Sure. Besides, once I'm at the library, which is the first place I'd go, I'd check out books on the Amate bark painting. I would also go on the internet to search under the Atomi and the Nawa bark paintings, which have different histories. I would go to YouTube. They have a variety of videos on the process and the history. I'd also go to the different Latino museum sites on the internet to see if they have an exhibit. Living in San Francisco, you might want to go down to the Mission District and visit a shop owner who specializes in bark painting and ask them questions. There's just a number of resources out there waiting to be explored, all at the library.
And I just have one more thing that I wanted to ask. The Amate behind you, is that the one from the video?
Yes, that is. And that's actually a reflection of a new style that was popularized in the 60s by the hippie culture in the United States. And the artisans are always trying to improve their or gain more popularity. So they adapted these fluorescent colors and started a whole new trend.
It looks just as vibrant on video and in virtual world, and I'm sure it's just beautiful in person. So just thank you again for sharing your knowledge and experience and sticking around for some questions. And thank you to the Mexican Museum, of course, for your partnership.
Well, we appreciate the public library having these kinds of excellent programs that help share the Latino culture and ensure its longevity. And so we'd like to really thank you for that.
Just like Diane had mentioned, we're really interested in seeing people's Amate paper paintings that they created at home. Snap a picture, share it with us on Instagram at SF Mexican Museum or at SF Public Library. You can also use the hashtag Viva SFPL. You can view this video again with Diane showing it. So in case you want to see it later or show it to a friend or do it with some family, you can check that out on our YouTube page under the Viva 2020 playlist. So Diane, thank you again. We don't have any more questions, just a ton of appreciation. And yeah, that was wonderful. Thank you so much.
Thank you. We hope to see you all at our new building whenever it opens at 3rd and Mission. Thank you.
Great. Can't wait for the Mexican Museum to open up. Viva Mexico. That's the last comment. Que viva.
Viva. Bye.